Welcome to Be Bold and Break the Mold, a podcast that introduces you to people that broke free of society's norms and regulations to live a free and inspired life. I'm your host, Ursula Williams, author, blogger, and, podcaster. I'm glad you kept checking my blog from time to time. Even thought I did not post anything for weeks. Reason being, the lockdown quashed all my ambitious plans for 2021. In the very beginning of the year, everything seemed fine. I had lots of guests that were in a chatty mood. My video and audio were crystal clear, and we were on a roll. Until 5 minutes into the chat, when we suddenly lost the internet connection. We waited around for the signal to return, but it kept coming and going, so we had no choice than to call it quits. And then, at the beginning of February, things became more stable. I'm guessing we all somewhat settled into our lives under lockdown restrictions. Anyhow, I'm back in action, and I will introduce you today to Patty Fletcher from Tennessee. Patty is an independent author, blogger, podcaster, and promotional genius. And she loves to chat about the things she loves just as much as I do. So we did for quite some time, offline for now. But I think it is high time for us to let you join our conversation. So, Patty girl, let's get official, girl.
Yeah.
Let's do it. So, writing. Did you write in your youth when you were adolescent, or much later in life?
When I've always loved storytelling. When I was growing up, I was the kid that everybody wanted at their slumber parties or their campouts or whatever, because I would be the storyteller. I was the one who would weave the great ghost stories, or if we had favorite characters in a TV series or whatever, I would create stories in which we all were involved in our favorite TV shows or whatever. So I was the storyteller. And in middle school, I began to learn to type, because being at the Tennessee School for the Blind, we were taught to type in the 6th grade, which nowadays that is, kids are taught keyboarding quite early, but back in the 70s, it was not heard of for kids to know how to type. And so my mother bought a typewriter for me for Christmas one year. It was the highlight of my holiday, and I began to type short stories, but I never wrote anything for publication until later in life, when I wrote my first book in 2014, when I published.
Yeah, and you self-published, you're independent, aren't you?
Yes, I have 3 books out, and I'm in a couple of anthologies. So thus far, I'm independent published.
Okay, and for our listeners, the books and the links to Amazon, and of course all the links to Patty, are on the blog. So after the interview, you should go and have a look yourself and look into it, get one, and you'll be not sad that you did, because I read the reviews, and the reviews are really outstanding, I have to really say. But I have to be honest, I didn't have the time to read yet. I will do it. But
time is a huge commodity these days. There are so many things that we must do.
Definitely, because I'm also teaching. I teach German and English. And so, trying, and it's really hard because of the virus, everything now is via Skype and takes a longer time. It's not quite as easy as when you are together, and,
right.
Pronunciation is a problem over the internet. They don't, depending on the equipment they have, they either hear it clearly or not. But that's not the issue here. The issue is writing. And I know that you wanted to bridge the life from a sight impaired person to a person with full sight. How successful have you been?
Well, my goal, my writing goal is actually to bridge the chasm that separates the disabled from the non-disabled, and that is all disabilities.
Okay.
I am a multiply disabled person. I have 3 disabilities, and many people are likewise. They have multiple disabilities, and some, maybe just have one. But I include all disabilities in that, and I am finding quite a bit of success in that. My magazine that I put out every month goes out to all types of persons, both disabled and non-disabled. My blog, many of my followers are non-disabled. Many of those that I network with are not disabled. So I am finding a great success in that. And my goal really is to show people that, first of all, let's think about what a disability is. And a disability is something, in my mind, that causes a person to do something differently than somebody else. We've all heard the word differently abled, the phrase differently abled. So I think that all of us have something. And my goal is to show people that it doesn't matter what your situation is that causes you to do something differently. It's that you are doing it. And I want to, we can tell people, we as disabled persons can tell the non-disabled all day long, well, I can do this and I can do that. But my thing is, this works just like with writing. You can't just tell people, you must show them. They must see the disabled person in action. And so my goal is to show the non-disabled world, this is what the disabled are doing. And that's what I do.
Yeah, I agree with you. When I lived in the Caribbean, I lived in the Caribbean for 28 years. I was working with disabled people, hearing, seeing, body, also mentally disabled. And so I know you do things different, but you can do them. And I had to convince the people and show the people that they can actually do it, because when you live in a third world, you are really disabled, but you are more disabled by society than actually by whatever ailment or inability you have. So you have to build up, and you do that with your work, that you also build up people and say, you have to try, you can do it. And I mean, you are living proof.
Well, I also think that there are many people who disable themselves by the belief that they can't learn something new. For example, right now I have someone with whom I am working, and they find themselves flummoxed by the newer technology. And my thinking is, if you believe you can't, then you can't.
Mm-hmm.
And that works across the board. If you say to yourself, I can't learn this, or I can't do this, whatever the reason is, or whatever that thing is, if you believe you can't, then you've already put a large stumbling block in front of you. You must not be afraid to try. What's the worst thing that can happen if you take a chance and try something? And it took me years to learn that. And it's kind of one of the reasons I began to write, because I began to really learn it when I went to get my first seeing eye guide dog. And I had a trainer who would see me hesitating to try something, and he would say, come on, take a chance. There's a 50% chance that you'll be right. And I had never had anybody say that to me. So when I saw that was true, it kind of became my catchphrase, and so I tell people that all the time.
Yeah, it's like I remember my trainer, my coach telling me, You can try and fail, but please do not fail to try. And that's basically what you are saying, you know. And I love what he said, 50%. Yeah, you know, you have the same chance to succeed as you have to fail. So there's nothing lost. The only thing is lost an opportunity.
That's correct. Yes.
So and like you rightfully said, Patty, is that people afraid for computer. You have many elderly people, they have a great barrier because they do believe they're too old, they don't understand, the technique is too difficult, and wouldn't even try. And again, in the time that we are living presently with the corona, they are so isolated. If they would take that step and just plunge straight into it, they could communicate, they could have interaction with people without having the fear to get infected, don't even have to leave home, and don't have to be alone.
That's correct. And that's kind of, you know, through my writing, through my blogging, through my publishing of books, through my marketing, in 2017, I found myself homebound, recovering from illness, and feeling rather bored. And I began to emulate what I saw other bloggers doing with content promoting and taking other people's work and helping them get that work out there. And I began to watch, observe what people were doing on social media. And I began to dabble in this and teach myself how to do these things. And one thing led to another. And I began to help my friends and fellow authors and business owners to create advertising and different ways of marketing their work. And I began to see this was fun, first of all. And then I had a friend of mine say to me, I bet you could get paid to do this. And I went, would you pay me? And she said, absolutely. And she became my first client. And that was in 2017. And so Tell It to the World Marketing was born. And then about a year or so later, I saw that, what I was doing was really expanding to a lot of little side trips. I was assisting people with learning how to do things. I was assisting people with networking and outreach and so on. And so I changed the name to Tell It to the World Marketing Author, Blogger, Business Assist. And we've really just expanded and grown that into just this wonderful community and network of authors and bloggers and business owners and nonprofit workers who come together, and not only are they marketing their own things, but one another's things. And we have a magazine, the Writer's Grapevine, that goes out every month, and it's a news and literary magazine. And each month, without any effort whatsoever on the part of anybody, we always end up with this beautifully flowing magazine that has just this wonderful theme that none of us even attempted to have a meeting about or try to create. It's just, we all just kind of have this wavelength. And, I have, through this magazine, I'm showing the world, this is what we as the disabled and non-disabled communities are doing as we are coming together. This is what we are putting together. And it's just been an amazing ride. It's just been so much fun to do this. And all because I was bored. All because I just couldn't figure out what to do to occupy myself. So I kind of created my own thing.
Well, it's very important to always interest yourself, find something new to do. And obviously you guys are inspired, you're in the flow. When you say you do all that without big set of meetings, and it's just flowing, it's just moving, it's great, but it doesn't happen with everybody. So I guess you all are on the same wavelengths, you understand each other without words.
Yeah, we do. And, I also have a group that we all belong to. It's an email group. And so we're all talking and chattering. I some days our group gets real chatty, and other days it's not so much. but we kind of know each other, and I guess that just kind of without trying, we just really know what the other is going to be about. And we have articles, we have essays, we have tips, we have poetry, we have advertisements, announcements. I have one section called What's Up, and it's all of our contributors will write in and send me. It's kind of like a dear reader, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I want you to know about, and kind of thing. And it's just a lot of fun, and I call it armchair traveling. We
Mhm.
go, we have people from all around the world. I have clients in India and Wales and New Zealand and the UK and just everywhere, the United States, all over the United States. And so when
And
I
now you
say,
have one from Scotland.
yes, when I say, tell it to the world, I mean it. We are literally telling it to the world. And so it's just a huge lot of fun. And I guess the point to all this is that you can sit back and you can say, oh, I'm trapped in lockdown and I can't focus on this and I can't do that. Or you can think about what you can do, and you can latch on to that, and you can take what you can do and you can build it into something wonderful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can even build a complete new life around this. You learn from one another. To me, it's like the blog and what I'm doing and my readers, like a village. Like we meet up in a square, in a village square, and we talk. We talk about our lives and what did you do and what did you experience, and what's new, what's interesting. This is what is missing in our normal daily life. So basically, the internet opens the doors to this form of meeting. And like you rightfully said, worldwide, we are a global village.
Yes. The one thing that really inspired me in 2020, when all of the pandemic hit and everybody was closed off, um, I saw this group uh, of blind individuals, the American Council of the Blind, and they took their events that they normally would have, conventions and different state affiliates would meet and so on and so forth, and they took these things and they brought it to Zoom. And they in from the time the pandemic hit until the end of the year, they had over 2,000 community meetings, community calls they call them. And this has turned into this huge community of people who are saying, we will not be defeated. And if these people can do this, they trained their staff, they trained their volunteers, they recruited and they learned. And you have all of these people from all these different walks of life, all these different technical backgrounds, all of this, and they're succeeding in this new world. And I just keep saying to people, you must not focus on what you cannot do. You must focus on what you are able. And so when I write my books, I talk about the issues that I have been confronted with in my life as disabled, as dealing with low income, as dealing with mental illness, as dealing with being a victim of domestic violence, and all of these things that should crush a person. Yet I have chosen to take those things and rise above them and learn from them and grow from them and create this whole new life. And I try to teach by entertaining. I try to educate by entertaining. I just want to really reach out to the world and say, anybody can have an issue. We all have limitations, but what are you going to do with it?
Yes. Yeah. Either you waddle in self-pity, and lose your life, or you get up, you struggle, you shake it off, you try to shake it off, and trust you me, all the things that you just said, been there, done that, have more than one t-shirt to prove it.
Yes, I have many closets full.
I tell you, oh God, girl, I tell you, nah. But we talk about me another day. That's not what we are about today. But I'm there with you, and I do the same thing with my students and try to give them a little bit of my wisdom. Tell them, where you are now, I have been before, and you see, if I could do it, so can you. And I always like to open the door. If they walk through, that's up to them. But at least we open the door.
Yes.
So yeah, and I'm sure you will continue doing it. I will continue doing it. And let's hope we have our strength. We're going to continue. I will do my best to make the world out there know about you, about Patty, about what you are doing. I mean, you're a bundle of energy. Jesus Christ, you're the energizer buddy.
Yeah, I do have a lot of energy. I tend to be a manic person, and my mania used to get me in all kind of trouble. And then I began to learn to channel that into really positive activity. And I found out that I could take all of this energy and I could channel it into things that were really positive and productive. And so, I decided, rather than letting my mental illness work against me, I decided to use it and let it work for me. And so, that's been my goal, as to, to just kind of take my, I used my experience going to get a guide dog as a springboard to talk about blindness and to educate the public about blindness and guide dogs. And then I used my experiences with bipolar disorder to educate the public about mental illness. And I used my experience with domestic violence to educate the public about domestic violence. All of these things are stereotyped and they have a huge stigma. But I think as I began to do this, I learned that there are so many people out there, and almost every person that I run into in one way or another has had an experience with at least one of these things in some form or fashion, whether it's themselves, a family member, a friend, what have you. And when you start opening up the lines of communication, you begin to get people to talk about it, you realize, you know what, this isn't such a filthy subject. Everybody has issue. And, there again, you go back to the question of, okay, so I have this deal, I have this problem. What am I going to do with it? Am I just going to lay down and let the wagon run over me? Or am I going to get up and ride the wagon?
That's right. That's right.
And even better, to drive the wagon.
Definitely. And, it's better to also talk about it, not having these fake smiles. And, for a long time, what gets to me is when you ask somebody, how are you? Most of the people don't even hear the answer,
No.
And think, if you would say, no, I'm not good, I'm anxious, I'm afraid I might lose. People don't want to hear it. It has become a phrase without meaning. It's very unfortunate.
Well, I used to work for an organization called 211 Contact Concern. You could dial 211 and reach a phone volunteer who would listen to your situation and many times have information or referral as to how you could resolve your situation. And the first thing that I learned was people want to be heard and they want to be understood. And the second thing that I learned is, don't ask me how I am. if you don't want to know the answer.
Exactly.
Because a lot of times people will ask me and they'll say, well, how are you? And I'll say, well, shall I tell you or shall I lie to you?
Yeah, exactly.
If I ask a person, how are you? I want to know how you truly are. And if you're having a problem, then my next question is, how can I help? Do you just need a sounding board? Might I help you find some way to solve it? Can I help you network with somebody who can solve it? And if you're having a super great day, then that's so, say that. But don't be frightened to say, you know what, today is just really crap. I just need a moment of your time, because I think that we must realize there are a lot of people who are suffering in silence. In the afterword of my latest book, I write about the reason that I wrote was because I felt there were many women and men suffering in similar hells as was I, who needed to realize they weren't alone. And that's just something I felt was very important for people to understand. I know you're out there. I know that there is this hurt within you and it needs to be cleaned out and healed. And the way to do that is to open up and speak about it. Don't be frightened to say, I am experiencing this problem.
Yeah. Don't you? I mean, I find it's my experience in my life that women open up more than men do.
I think that they do sometimes. Not long ago, I had the privilege of interviewing a life coach for men. And I told him that the biggest reason I reached out to him when I saw what he was doing is because I felt that there weren't enough. There are just huge amounts of support groups for women, but I don't see a lot of supportive groups for just men, where they can be men and be allowed to be themselves and to talk about the things that are bothering them or hindering them or their successes. And so I felt that was really important. You have a lot of groups that are for women, and you have a lot of groups that are for everyone. But I think there must, I discovered a really wonderful women's center in my area before COVID struck. And it was a wonderful place to go for women. And I kept saying to the women there, so what do your husbands or your boyfriends or your sons or whatever do while you are here? Is there such a place for them? And people looked at me like I had two heads.
Yeah. Society is like a man is not supposed to talk about weaknesses and problems, and he's supposed to solve it. And, I mean, the saying, men up. What does that mean? What does that mean? Men can be weak. Men are allowed to cry. Men are allowed to be emotional. But it's society, and we have to break through. And we need people like you talking about it, like face to face, or like what we are doing now in your blog and in the podcast, but also in books, because people can read it in their own time, in their own surrounding, and read it and reread it again, however often they need to, for them to get the message, that it sinks in,
Yes.
Do you have plans for a new book? Sorry.
I do. The book that I just put out, Pathway to Freedom, Broken and Healed, Book 1, How a Seeing Eye Dog Retrieved My Life, second edition, is the first in what will be a memoir trilogy. And the first book is a retelling of my first book that I published in 2014, because I had a lot of readers write me and say, this was a great book, but there were a lot of subjects within this book that you just kind of glossed over, that you didn't really talk about. And we want to know more about it. And I had one reviewer write, be hot, be cold, but don't be lukewarm. And he was basically stating to me, either talk about it or don't. And so after all that feedback and all the questions that I was asked, I felt that book needed to be rewritten. And so I wrote in a very open and in some cases a very brutally honest way. And so the second book will pick up where that one leaves off, and it will really talk about the darkness that came up in my life after having experienced all what I did, the domestic violence, and how that spiraled out of control with my mental illness, and how all of the things that took place. And the reason I feel that is important to tell that story is because people must see from where I came to appreciate the reality of who I am now, because I wasn't always this well-balanced person that you see before me. And then the third book will show how I climbed out of that pit, and how I came back into the light, and how I found my way into this happy, bubbly person that I am today. Because I think that people must know the whole story, and they must understand that all of us fall into really dark, awful gullies in our lives, that we can fall into these holes. And I tell people that I dug so hard that I didn't dig up and out, I dug all the way through to the other side, and it came out as this new person that is just, I'm still amazed by. Every morning I get up and go, who are you? Where did you come from, and what took you so long? And I'm finding real joy. I'm reconnecting with family that I was estranged with for years. My daughter and I are reconnecting. My father and I are reconnecting. My oldest sister and I are reconnecting. And it's because I have been able to emerge as this new and more complete person, and to find ways, good, healthy ways of coping with the things that made it difficult for me to be this person. Because the sickness didn't go away. The blindness doesn't go away. The bipolar doesn't go away. The fibromyalgia doesn't go away. What has to happen is that you must learn to cope with and find good, healthy ways to live with the illness. It's just like having diabetes. A diabetic knows that they have to get up every day, and they must not eat certain things. They must take certain medications. They must live a certain lifestyle. And so me, with my mental illness, I have to get up every day and decide every morning that I am going to live successfully with this illness. And so every morning I have kind of a checklist that I go through, and a routine that I go through. And I must do this every day, even on the days when that feels like walking through glass. I still must do it. And what I have learned is that now that I have learned to walk through those days that feel like walking through broken glass, they don't last as long. They don't knock me down. I don't have to wallow in it. I can feel bad, and I can still function throughout the day. And I can go at the end of the day and go, oh, I did it. I got through that day, and tomorrow is better. And that's what a person must do. You must take your circumstance, and you must learn to find good, healthy ways to cope with that circumstance. And if you don't like how something is, you must change it. If you don't like the fact that you are too heavy, you must create a new lifestyle. It's not enough just to go on a crash diet. You must find a new way to live. If you drink too much, you must find a new lifestyle. If you are visually impaired and you are not able to do all the things that you want to do, you must reach out and find the people who can teach you how to live with that. Whatever your situation is, you must find a good, healthy way to learn to live with it. And if you don't like something about your situation, you must find a way to change it.
Yep. Don't victimize yourself, live through it. You have to do it every day. It's a challenge. Every day you start over again. Every day counts. And that's right. And what you said, that you have to be brutally off, you have to be brutally honest, because people that are in this darkness of bipolar, they can't see the way out. But when they hear from somebody, I was exactly there. I felt the same way you do. It hurt me just as bad. Was it easy? No, it wasn't. Have I given up? No, I haven't. And you shouldn't either. And you can do it. But not making it sound like it's an easy way and you will do it and just try a little harder. No, really brutally honest with all the pain and suffering that you have gone through, but also with the stamina, with the willpower to wanting to go through there, to wanting to be better, and not wallow, like I said, wallow down and make yourself a victim and basically give up.
I think the experience that, and the third book will tell this tale. In 2017, I went to the doctor one day thinking that I had a UTI, a urinary tract infection, and I knew that it was bad, but I had no idea how truly bad it was. And when I went in and they did the lab work, the doctors came in and said to me, Miss Fletcher, you are in the beginning stages of kidney failure. We need to admit you to the hospital. And so I went to the hospital, and what transpired was over the next few days, I became very ill. At one point, I was in critical condition, and the doctors came to me and said, the next 48 hours are going to be very critical. It is very possible that you could die. Is there anyone that we can call for you to come and be with you? And that answer turned out to be no.
Oh.
And so for the next 48 hours, I struggled. And the one thing that kept me alive was I had my guide dog with me. The hospital volunteers were super, and they were taking care of him and allowing him to stay with me. And the one thing that I kept thinking about is I'm going to die, and this dog is going to be alone with strangers until somebody from the school can come and get him. And that horrified me. I couldn't imagine that happening. And so I struggled and fought and fought and struggled. And I said to God, I said, okay, I'm not ready to go yet. I have things to do. Please allow me the privilege of my life. And when I came through that and I realized I was going to live, I had to take a long, hard look at myself and say, okay, what brought you to the point where here you were at 2:00 in the morning and your doctor is telling you you're going to die, and there is nobody to call to come and be with you because you've alienated everybody around you. And I had to think about why that was. And I had to begin to make those changes. And there are people out there living these lives, and they are constantly saying, and I see them saying it on social media, and they write to me and they say, I don't understand why my life is so bad. And I keep going back to them and saying, you must look at yourself and you must demand brutal honesty of yourself. And until you are ready to answer the hard questions and do the hard work, your life is not going to change.
Yep, definitely. I'm so glad that there is somebody like you, somebody who speaks it as it is. not with beautiful colors, but with the dark colors that it really is. It's very important. And I'm looking forward to your next book. I love brutal honesty. I love straightforward. I'm very straightforward. I'm not a diplomat. I'm an Aries, and Aries goes for the wall.
Yes. Yes. They're wonderful. I'm a Scorpio. So in a way, we tend to be a little secretive. Pathway to Freedom, Broken and Healed, book 1 is not secretive. It's very brutally written.
Yeah.
When you read the book, there is humor, there is sadness, there is terror, there is romance, there is everything in this book that you could want. But when you read it, be prepared to be told a story and taken into my world just as I lived it. I kept copious journals during that time period of my life. And when I decided to rewrite the book and tell the story as it really was, rather than sugarcoat it, which is what I did the first time around, when I decided to do that, I went back to those journals and I read and I read and I copied and I read and I wrote. And I said, wow, this really did happen just like this. And this is what I have to tell you. And so, if you're looking for a story that's just going to paint it over and whitewash it, that's not what you'll find in that book. You will find a story that will show you a wonderful world. It wasn't all bad and it wasn't all horrible, but it wasn't all roses and rainbows either.
Well, it was life. And that's what life is all about.
Yes.
There is the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we have to accept it and not live in a commercial world where everything is beautiful and colorful and so easy and always smile and laughter. There are tears, and there can't be light without shadow. And it's great that there are books out there and that there are authors like you out there. I'm more a fantasy author. I create worlds to escape the world when it gets too much. I'm really glad to have met you, sincerely, and I have to tell Jane about it and say thanks for the suggestion. It was great, and I do honestly believe we should talk again if you don't mind.
Sure, certainly, yes.
If it's okay with you. I'm a bundle of energy. I'm a fire sign. I'm like in your face. If it's too much, you have to cut me.
No, see, I love it because I tell people all the time, I work with a lot of Aries, and you're the fire, and I'm a Scorpio, and I'm the water. And when you put that together, what do you get? Steam.
Be moving things.
Steam is power.
Yeah.
The steam locomotive. We are, we are locomotion.
We are. We bring about changes. They may not always be easy. They may not always be comfortable, but you know what? We are moving.
Yes, we are.
Yes. Well, in saying moving, I unfortunately have to move on.
No, that's fine.
All your links are on the blog. I have a blog, and
the best way for anybody to find out all they ever didn't want to know about me is, just for those who might be listening who don't have the advantage of looking at the screen, Patty's Worlds, PattySWorlds.com. You go there. You will find everything about me you ever wanted to know, and lots of stuff that you might not have wanted to know. It's all there. One-stop shop. You find my books, my blog, my magazine. Everything is there. And please don't hesitate to visit, because it's a wonderful world, and I love to have people come and visit there.
Perfect. And before I let you go, Patty, maybe you can also tell people that, like you said, can't see the links and can't read your books. I know there are programs out there that read out. I mean, Windows 10 has the option.
All of my books are on Amazon, and they are also on Smashwords. They are ebooks, and all of the ebooks are text to speech enabled, so you can read them. My first book that it was published in 2000, 14 for those who are in the United States is also available on the National Library Services for the Blind and Print Disabled website at bard.loc.gov. And so you have a plethora of ways of getting those. And I am also getting ready to possibly work toward getting those books in Braille. So if anybody has any trouble accessing anything, reach out to me. My email is Patty, Patty, .volunteer1, that's the number 1, at gmail.com. Patty.volunteer1 at gmail.com. I'm happy to assist you in any way that I can.
And then again, they could listen to your podcast as well, right?
Yes, I have a podcast. It is called Talk to Tell It to the World Marketing. If you have the A lady, you can say to her, play the Talk to Tell It to the World Marketing podcast. That is also available on Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcast, and buzzsprout.com, buzzsprout.com. We are just entering into our 3rd season, so we are really excited about that podcast.
Perfect. You see, technique, great stuff in it.
Yes, lots of variety there. I just had the privilege of interviewing a Vietnam veteran who was given the award of Veteran of the Year for the United States in 1995 by President Bill Clinton. He's written a book. He's a magnificently fascinating person, worked with the USO, just not my average client, just kind of blew me away with his story. So lots of variety there.
Okay, well, something I definitely will listen into. And if you have anybody that you would recommend to come onto my podcast,
I will send him your way. Yes.
Greatly appreciated. Well, you know my favoritism to women.
Yeah, I actually have a couple of people who come to mind. I will send you their information.
That'd be lovely, because the blog is Be Bold and Break the Mold, you know. Yes. Break out from society's limitations and live your life inspired and happy as you can be, but definitely by your own terms.
Yes.
So that's my goal. That is your goal. Obviously, you have proven it many times over. And I hope so do our listeners. So for today, I thank you, Patty, for the time that you spent with us and told us about you and your life.
Thank you for having me.
And I hope I have you again soon. And yeah, say bye for now. And by the way, how is the weather in Tennessee?
The weather today is unusually warm. They are talking about ice and snow later in the week, but today we have partly cloudy. And at last check, it was going toward 50. And I think we're going to get warmer today. I'm going to try to get out and get a little of that warm weather before it goes away.
Yeah, well, yeah, do that. Well, we are snowed in. We have a foot of snow, and actually it's snowing again. And in the night, it's up to 17 degrees minus.
Well, and
I'm talking Celsius, honey.
Okay, well, y'all can have that.
It's pretty cool, but you know what, Patty? I like it because I love winter. I love snow. It's so pristine and clean. The light is so beautiful. And you could smell the snow.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yes, you certainly can. My daughter actually used to say to me, Mom, it's going to snow. And I'd say, how do you know? And she goes, I can smell it. Yeah, definitely. And it's great. It's a sensation I love, just like I love the soil after the rain. You know, these are things that I love. But then again, you know that I love nature. And it's life for me. It's a spice of life, and it has given me very often strength. It often has encouraged me to go on, because no matter how dark the night is, sun will rise again. Yes.
So, girl, I'm going to go, and I let you go. And I look forward to talking to you again. Thanks,
Thank
Patty.
you very much. Have an awesome day.
To you too.
Or
Bye-bye,
night.
love.
Bye-bye.